Thanks very much, Tim. Welcome, everybody. This picture's sort of interesting for me because it brings me full circle. I grew up here in Toronto and went to school in Sudbury and Haileybury here in Ontario, but my first career was with Inco, and they moved me to Alaska in 1995 to this exact spot that you're looking here in the picture. Literally that morning, we discovered nickel sulfides outcropping. And so for 5 years, I worked on this project in the late 1990s. And we discovered a lot of nickel, but the grade wasn't high enough to warrant development at the time. But now everything's different for nickel with a great new use in electric vehicles and demand that's going to be surging. And I was able to recapture all the mineral rights to the project a couple of years ago. And then 6 months ago, we started Alaska Energy Metals on this project, and we're off to the races on it. I don't actually like to blow by this slide. You guys know that mineral exploration is a risky business, and it doesn't always work out the way we think it's going to go, but our team has developed a reputation for executing and doing our very best with our shareholders' money to use it wisely. But there are forward-looking statements in my presentation. So, yeah, there is a whole new use for nickel, 29 kilos of nickel in every average new passenger vehicle. It'd be more appropriate to call them graphite nickel batteries rather than lithium-ion batteries. But that's a new demand on top of stainless steel demand, which continues to grow every year, and all the other plethora of uses for nickel. But clearly the demand is going to increase a lot for nickel. And certainly the United States Department of Energy thinks so as well, that lithium and nickel will be the most critical elements in terms of an electric vehicle transition, but also risk of actually getting supply to the battery plants. And certainly Indonesia is ramping up, will continue to ramp up, but if the whole idea is to not put carbon in the air, then laterite nickel deposits and the way laterite ores are treated, the energy used is not, does produce a lot of carbon. It's a big footprint. And so if we're going to use batteries for our electric vehicles, then the nickel and the metals going into those batteries should come from sources that don't put so much carbon in the air. And so I think having domestic sources for nickel is really important for the United States. There's one nickel mine in Alaska owned by Lundin Mining, in America, in Michigan, and it's a modest producer. So almost 100% of the nickel used in the U.S. is imported. Half of it comes from good neighbor Canada. But I'm also seeing battery plants being built in Ontario and Quebec, and wonder if Canada's going to keep shipping as much nickel to the United States. So the U.S., I think, really has to come to terms with the fact that it's vulnerable on metal supply, and especially for nickel. And, well, we've got what's probably a very, very large deposit of nickel. This yellow band is a band of rock in a layered mafic, ultramafic intrusion that I drilled into in 1997 and got big thicknesses of disseminated nickel sulfides. Like I say, at the time, it wasn't going to work for Inco, but times are different now. So we started the company. We raised $12 million this past summer, and we've started drilling. We drilled the 8 holes shown in blue on 300-meter centers. That's what we need for an inferred category resource. Assays are coming in. They're just exactly what we thought, because every single historical hole, all those black dots on the map are historical drill holes. Everyone hit almost exact same thing. And there's no misses. If you drill into the zone, you get the sulfides and you get around 0.35% nickel equivalent. That's the value of nickel plus copper, cobalt, platinum, palladium, and even a little bit of gold. So, whoops, how'd that happen? Is that the back? So we've drilled the holes in blue. Next year we'll get more aggressive and drill the holes shown in yellow. And at that point we're going to have a mineralized zone in all likelihood that's 5 kilometers long and ranges anywhere from 300 to 100 meters thick. Drilled off at 300-meter intervals for an inferred resource that if that grade of 0.35% holds up, there will be somewhere between 5 and 7 billion pounds of nickel in the deposit, and at least a couple of billion pounds of copper. So it could be a very large mineral deposit. I've got to prove that. I've started with the blue holes. We'll prove it more next year with the yellow holes. And that size of deposit should put us in the same category in terms of size as, for example, some of our peers like Canada Nickel or FPX Nickel. And so I would think that our firm should be similarly valued with market caps that are measured in hundreds of millions rather than our current 30 million. So we know what we're doing. We've been together for the last 15 years as Millrock Resources, a generative explorer that worked all over Alaska. And now through a partnership with Commodity Partners, a Vancouver capital markets group, we're dialed into capital markets as well. And we've got a solid board and some serious technical horsepower on our advisory board. You might recognize Tyron as a great geologist, but also with good capital markets experience here in Toronto. So only 51 million shares outstanding right now. We did raise, with the assistance of Commodity Partners, over 12 million Canadian dollars through the summer. A recapitalization round at 30 cents or 28 cents in April, and then a brokered financing that included a syndicate of Red Cloud, Echelon, Canaccord, and Cormark. And so we're off to the races. The share price has moved up through the year from 30 cents to now around 60 cents. So the location's quite good. I live in Anchorage, Alaska, at the south side of the map there. It's roughly a 6-hour drive on paved highways to the project site, or just a couple of hours south on a paved highway from Fairbanks. Grid power is probably 60 kilometers away towards Fairbanks, and the rail line runs between Fairbanks and Anchorage, and Deepwater Ports at Valdez. So it's not Timmins, but the development logistics for a northern location like Alaska are pretty good here. So zooming in, you can see the paved highway running north to south along the Delta River. Our claim blocks are shown in red. The Canwell block on the edge of the Alaska Range Mountains, that's all the snow and glaciers you see there. But the Eureka block, where we have this bulk tonnage disseminated zone, is out on the flats on pretty benign terrain. And the blue line is an old gravel road that leads very close to the project site, can be upgraded and extended right onto the likely deposit. So here's a cross-section right through the middle of the zone. And you can see that the pink colors are the mineralization. And it's thick on this section. Hole EZ23001 that we drilled this summer intersected almost 350 meters of continuous nickel sulfide mineralization. You can see the dips around 45 degrees, so probably in the order of 315 meters true width. And the darker zone in the middle is higher grade, typically around 0.45%, with 0.32 on the outer envelope on both sides. It comes right to surface, and so with that dip, you can see that a pit would have quite a good strip ratio. This is what it looks like. It's a black peridotite sprinkled with iron, nickel, and copper sulfide minerals. This would be a section from the central zone that assayed 0.47% nickel equivalent. So you can see it's around 0.25% nickel plus the value of the other metals. So you can imagine with a grade like this, metallurgy is going to be crucially important. What are the recovery rates and where do the various metals report? And that work is starting right now. I literally signed the contract yesterday to start the bench scale testing for flotation circuits and whatnot. But we do know this, that in the central part of the zone, that at least 90% of the nickel is in the form of pentlandite, a common nickel sulfide that's readily recoverable. So our metals are at least in a form that's potentially recoverable, but we've got to do all that testing work to see what exactly we recover and where those metals go. And it'll be crucially important. So the plan's pretty straightforward. We drilled the holes in blue, and that should outline the volume of rock highlighted in red, the dark red. And that would be in the order of 300 to 400 million tons of rock that would contain somewhere between 1.3 and 1.7 billion pounds of nickel. So not bad for one drill program that we've already completed this summer. But there's a shortcut to that. We've purchased all the historical data. So we have all the logs and the assays and photographs and the actual core from all those black dots, those historical drill holes. And there's a couple of places where the holes are clustered closely enough together that we can immediately calculate a resource. And so that will come out probably within the next 2 weeks. Two separate resources, 3 kilometers apart, that'll contain probably 500 million pounds of nickel in each one, and it'll be immediately apparent, I think, to everybody that those resources are going to join up with further drilling. And that'll be the plan for next year. When we drill all the holes shown in yellow, roughly 15,000 meters of drilling in 26 holes. And we know from the historic drilling that it is continuous, and it probably will all fill in for a total strike extent of 5 kilometers, anywhere from 100 to 300 meters thick. And that will produce a resource that's somewhere between 5 and 7 billion pounds of nickel, as long as that historic grade of 0.35% holds up. No reason to think that it won't. So with 5 or 7 billion pounds, that starts to put us up in the same size range as Canada Nickel's Crawford deposit or FPX's deposit in British Columbia. The blue bar is total contained nickel. The green is total contained metals. This is forward looking for us as a possible mineral deposit. We'd have to do all of next season's drilling to get here. But at that point, we have a very sizable deposit, and I think should be valued similarly to Canada Nickel now, or Canada Nickel when it peaked a year or two ago. at probably over a $300 million, $400 million market cap. So that's what we're looking forward to. For me, it was great to see Anglo American come in on Canada Nickel, an endorsement not just of the company, but and the people behind it, but of the overall notion that our mining industry will be mining these bulk tonnage 0.25% nickel deposits, the next generation of nickel mining. It's just so hard to find a massive sulfide nickel deposit. I mean, I think the last big one was Voisey's Bay. It's 30 years ago, and it's not like the mining industry hasn't been looking in those 30 years for massive sulfide nickel. There's just so few of them that I believe our industry is forced to mine these lower grade deposits, and it seems like the bigger mining companies like Glencore and Anglo believe that too, because they're coming this far down the food chain to invest in exploration and really early stage development companies. But I haven't given up on the hope that I will find massive sulfide. The geology here is very similar to the Norilsk region of Russia, the largest accumulation of nickel on Earth, and that's why Inco sent me to Alaska in the first place, was to find this massive sulfide. And you know, there's been a lot of exploration done, but we could certainly still find the huge prize. There's places where there's sulfide occurrences right at surface. Now, after this past summer, we've done all the geophysical work and the surface work that we need to develop excellent drill targets for high-grade nickel, and we'll go about that business right now next year. Here's an example, a nickel showing its surface with over 1% nickel, a short little tiny drill hole underneath it that didn't have the benefit of the geophysical section behind it. And it sure looks like just needed to drill deeper into the orangey areas, and maybe those orange areas represent high-grade, massive sulfide nickel, copper enriched with platinum. We'll see. I can't wait to drill this hole next year. So, maiden resource sometime this month, possibly even this week. The rest of our assays will be complete by December. We'll crunch those numbers for those 8 holes. We'll calculate an update resource in March of next year. Our metallurgical first pass work will be done around the same time. We'll raise capital again and be drilling again by next June. So that's it. We're just getting started. Brand new company, just on the uptick now. I think it's a great investment, and we're getting out there to tell the story and make sure that the investing public knows about this project. And again, it's an Alaska nickel project for the American market. And I think it's going to be quite attractive to major mining companies and potentially also attract large amounts of capital from the U.S. government. They're investing in projects like this, helping with CapEx, helping even with feasibility studies. So.